tertiary secondary school. What will you do when you get your first smartphone?
Yay! Whole world will hear me scream.
Surprise your child with an MTN smartphone for as low as 13,000 naira with a 3-month data bonus offer available at all designated MTN
we're going in.
stores nationwide. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Studio. Good morning, Lagos. You're tuning and listening to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Welcome and happy Democracy Day. It is time for Freshly Pressed here on Smooth Breakfast with Valentine and myself.
Folu.
And in the studio to help us out with our newspaper analysis, we've got some fantastic analysts for you. Orji Uka is joining us this morning. Good morning, Orji. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Excellent. Thanks for coming through this morning. And we've also got our other learned colleague in the studio, Adedunmade Onibokun. Good morning, Adedunmade.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
It's like a legal holiday in the studio.
Yes,
like
it is.
Just so
With
lovely.
denim so much.
Wow. So Lagos, we are streaming live, so feel free to comment on our live stream, which is up on YouTube. Just search for Smooth FM Lagos up there, and you can tweet at us as well to join in the commentary for this morning's news stories using the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. The first thing we're just going to quickly talk about is our president's Democracy Day speech. It just ended, and we're going to delve into that in a little bit of detail. So it does start off talking about the nascent democracy. It's the third anniversary of this administration, so on and so forth, and talks about the Democracy Day being a day of freedom, to salute the resilience and determination of Nigerians. And then the rest of his speech almost comes across really as a scorecard for the government. I mean, what's your take on this?
There's no time to get to do justice to this story because it's really a lot. It lasted 25 whole minutes.
Yes.
I don't know if it had to do with the content or the delivery, or it lasted 25 minutes. It was a long speech. He, in addition to it being a Democracy Day address, you got a spot on. He used the opportunity to, I won't say campaign, but really just say we've done a lot. So he's got himself high on 3 major cardinal areas. He's decided that you should judge him on 3 issues: security, corruption, and the economy. On security, he said a number of things. How Boko Haram, before he came into power, Boko Haram had controlled vast expanse of local governments in Nigeria, but that has come to an end. He's hailed his government for the release of 106 Chibok girls and 104 Dapchi girls, and over 16,000 other persons held by Boko Haram. One paragraph I'll have to mention is the fact that he continues to refer to the herdsmen and farmer clashes. In some communities, it is not a clash, it's outright massacre, and we have to say the truth. So when you keep looking at it as
A clash.
For example, we just, as we're going to read the other stories, we've heard cases of seminaries being attacked. You can't describe that as clash, because somebody is sleeping at night and then you see people barge into your premises and then start shooting. That's not a clash. So if you view it as a clash, that's why the IGP will not want to go there to go and resolve it if the president asks.
That's why the problem persists.
That's why the problem persists. So we need to do proper.
But if I may, there is one very interesting part of the speech, which is the last paragraph, or the second to the last, which talks about him signing the not to
Young around bill in a few days.
Yes, and that's going to be very interesting because the country is waiting, young Nigerians are waiting, and it would be nice to put it into effect in 2019 as well. So hey, let's see what happens.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, he touched on Niger Delta issues, looked at security issues. I felt the statement he made, like you mentioned, Orji, that you said that he called it a clash, and it shouldn't be called that. I think he contradicted himself when he started. Well, not much of a contradiction, but he commended the community leaders for their intelligence providing intelligence to aid security personnel to fight insurgency. Anyway, we'll move on from that quickly. We'll start with this story on the Guardian newspaper. The headline reads, "Sale of Codeine syrup thrives in Kano." and despite ban. So despite the federal government's recent prescription of the sale of codeine in parts of the country, in all parts of the country, precisely. Now, the sale and consumption of the abused drug, it says, still thrives in Kano. They are blaming this on the Johesu strike that's still going on. What's your take, Adedunmade?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw the video, the BBC video.
Yeah, we
The
did.
documentary.
Yeah, the documentary. It was quite interesting, and most particularly the factory that the journalist visited. I think it was somewhere in the North Kano, if I'm not, if my memory serves me right. And that just shows the level of impunity by which they carry out this action of selling codeine there. Now, despite this government move of shutting down the factory, it just shows that that move was a concentrated effort only on pharmaceutical companies that were located in, let's say, Lagos State, and places that are more under the public eye. But there are pharmaceutical companies in other parts of Nigeria who was not as big as the MZOs, but who are also producing this benylene with codeine. So it's very important that the enforcement gets down to that level. Now, with regard to the strike, the Johesu and how it affects it, I was quite surprised as well, until, of course, you explained to me that some of the NAFDAC members are also members of Johesu as well.
Yeah, some of the NAFDAC members are medical practitioners.
Yes.
Yeah, so independently
and by
they
that,
can
yes,
belong to Johesu,
to
you know, as a body. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's sad to see that that is restricted the enforcement of the directive of government with regards to this. But I just hope that we get some sort of full enforcement very soon. We hope the Johesu is resolved soon. The Senate President has met with them, a couple of people have met with them, and there's even been a court order in that regard, but they're still insisting on the strike. I wonder why such an organization would like to openly refuse to obey a court order, but I'm sure when we get to that bridge we'll cross it. However, back to the codeine syrup issue, 2 million bottles are still going. Now there's also the issue of businesses who are selling it for the sole issue of profit. And I think they have to be made to understand that profit is not everything. You know, the lives of people matter, and the lives of the society in general also is quite important. So let's see what happens when the strike is called off, and I hope the government and the police and other agencies that are responsible for security can come together to bring down the menace.
Thank you very much.
We can only hope.
Yeah, we can only hope. Thisday is next. NNRC, which is the Nigerian Natural Resource Charter. On Monday, they said that 1.25 trillion naira allegedly held back by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, from the Federation, as revealed by several audit reports of Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NATI, can fund a third of the recurrent expenditure in the country's 2018 budget. Now, Orji, I'll come to you this one. We know that the NATI, which is the committee or initiative put together to carry out audits from 2013, if I'm not mistaken, yes. Between 2013 and 2014, they had reports that were revealed and identified several processes and governance lapses in the oil and gas sector, precisely with the NDDC. And we know it's headed by the former Minister of State Petroleum Resources. That's the person of Codeine. What's your take on this story?
I think it was last week I had cause to talk about NNPC, where they said they want to diversify and get into
into properties.
First, this story just gives kudos to Naiti. They've done a lot, because the bulk of what we hear from NNPC, the bulk of what we hear about NNPC comes from them, because NNPC would never or would not want to give you the books or open up the books for you to see.
Yes.
But it just speaks to the impunity that we have as a country. NNPC is an agency of the federal government. In other words, the heads of NNPC boards, the heads of the executive part of NNPC, those who carry out the day-to-day running of NNPC, they are appointed by the executive arm of government. So they have control. There's a minister in charge. So, and then there's a president. So, in that order, there is nothing that makes it impossible for them to be controlled. Something about that body, that the moment you get in there, you become. That thing is so. I don't know how to put it, but the
It's
figures
very
here are
corrupt,
huge.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Now,
The
not just
corruption seems to stop anybody
Yes,
that gets
yes.
close.
Yes,
It
right.
does. 7 billion worth of outstanding payments are yet to be remitted to the federal government by the oil and gas industry as a whole. Of this figure, NNPC alone has 1.5 budget. So we have 1.5 trillion naira outstanding from an agency of federal government. Yet we to borrow, and you think we are serious? Those who are coming to meet would only laugh at us, give you the money, but at very exorbitant interest rates.
And guess what?
And it continues like that.
That's just an 1.25 trillion. Yeah.
That's just because, of course, no one knows. Particularly because they would never come out and declare. That's what I'm saying. There's something about the NNPC. I don't know what it is. That if you get in there,
The powers that be. Listen, we've got a few messages. Let's jump into them very quickly. Am I from a cocker up on WhatsApp says, happy democracy doesn't exactly have the gift of the gam. But what always bothers me is not necessarily what he said, but more importantly, what he does not say. I believe that's what he meant to put in there. While Big E from K2 just also sends us happy democracy day to us all and a better government. Perhaps we should ask for a better citizenry because the government doesn't devolve from it comes from us. We've got Ike who says Boko Haram has been joined by herdsmen to worsen things on corruption. The NNPC is more opaque with massive subsidy payments, and on the economy, the sole driver of the perceived improvement is rise in crude oil prices.
Yielded to pressure from the organized private sector (OPS) as it halted the implementation of the power tariff hike for 1 year. Said the planned tariff hike was supposed to take effect soon. It was meant to be implemented through the multi-year tariff order based on the review that was released recently, but they said they are going to put it on hold until after 2019 elections, so it does not necessarily influence votes. What do you think, Adedunmade?
I don't know if I should call this deception, really, because you don't want to implement the hike now, but immediately after elections, you're not going to implement the hike and still bring us into hardship. So I think this is something Nigerians should take note of. APC is going to allow you vote first, then do what they think.
What is, give us some time to work to put this power, because you remember that they said by December of 2018 we would see almost relative 24 hours power supply across the nation. So hopefully when that it's possible, makes sense.
I
Don't you think?
so. This has nothing to do with electricity supply in any way. This is strictly political. Basically, they want to win the next election. They know, Nigerians have been complaining about electricity for so many years. First, it was the non-supply. Now, it is not only the non-supply, but also the high estimated billings. Now, there's so much brouhaha on this issue because even up to House of Rep level where Femi Gbaja is taking it on personally, now they know that there's so much complaint, so much bad blood between Nigerians and the discos, so they don't want to do anything that's going to frustrate Nigerians anymore in order to win the election. Simple. It's strictly a political decision. It has nothing to do with the interest of Nigerians. It's strictly that
opinion, but that's really thank you very much, Adedunmade, on this one. The next one is from Guardian. Academics, security agencies, others seek policies to address drug abuse and cultism in schools. So stakeholders in the education sector have come together with security agencies to call for policies that should be implemented by the government to curb the menace of drug abuse and cultism in schools. They said they spoke at a roundtable discussion that was based on school-based cultism in Lagos, organized by the Nigerian Policing Program, NNPC, yesterday. They decried the increase in drug abuse among students, and they said it's the major driver of cultism in primary, secondary, and tertiary level. What's your take, Orji?
Drug abuse, cultism, of course, it's not difficult to see the relation there because a lot of those students who are engaged in it would not ordinarily, if you see them at home, you won't believe it. But the moment they come to school, under that peer pressure, under the influence of drug, anything is possible. So it's always good to, and when you sit back, put a think tank together, think about the problem, it's only then that you can think of solutions that can be far-fetched. far-reaching. But one interesting point I need to make here is that they've also, the director of Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board, Superb, Olatunde Eniola, said parents also have a lot of work to do. They need to monitor their parents, and that most parents have ignored their responsibilities at home. I'm not a parent, so I won't say that's right or wrong, but the important thing is that it's a collective decision, but the parents, the teachers, and the society as a whole can only solve this problem, not for the parents alone or the teachers alone.
Yeah, thank you very much, Orji.
All right, we do have to keep it moving. Keep sending in your messages. Use the hashtag freshlypressed981. Makes it easier for us to get to your messages. And we see Adiza234 sending in a message. He says DeVille asked a question yesterday, but DeVille was not in the studio yesterday. I'm so sorry. Asking about the use of the Abacha loot, but says, how come you've never tweeted regarding the social welfare programs? Does that mean you're unaware of them? I think he's bothered about the president's speech. Happy Democracy Day, though, but I am curious about the flag behind. Interesting. While Ni Lomo says, good morning, all. Happy Democracy Day to everyone, and I look forward to a 2019 edition when another president would be sworn in. Look at that, guys. So savage this early morning. We've also got more messages coming in, but do remember, if you're sending in a WhatsApp message, you must put your name to the message if you want us to read it out. Speaking of putting your name to a message, Jega has put his name very clearly to this next one. He says there are danger signals ahead for the 2019 poll. He says that it was through God's intervention we weren't thrown into a constitutional crisis during the 2015 general elections. But right now, taking a look at what's on the ground, there seems to be danger ahead, pointing first of all to electoral violence, and not just across party lines, but within party lines as well, saying that if people cannot learn how to conduct things within their own parties, what hope is there for civility in the general elections? Adedunmade.
You know, this just reminds me of the Oloyede scenario, because he was mentioned somewhere in the story as well. I remember watching as it was unfolding, and I was telling myself, oh my God, the country is just about to fall into 1,000 pieces. But thank God for the wisdom of Professor Jega, that did not happen. So now he has shed a lot of light on issues that are of paramount importance to the elections. One which he has stressed openly is the issue of governance within the political parties. Now, this is very important, because if we look at the APC convention that was held in Ekiti, not the convention, there was this thing they had in Congress, yes, Ekiti. We saw the kind of violence that was portrayed there. And violence is not only an APC thing, it's across all Nigerian political parties, because they use thugs and hoodlums sometimes to carry out their objectives. So it's very important that this issue is curbed. Now, the APC did something while the Congress, after it had gone on, they said candidates whose supporters spoiled the violence were going to be, I think, tried, going to be prosecuted, and also that they were not going to be given the positions in which they were vying for. Now, I'm thinking to myself, can this also work on a national scale? Can't INEC, well, not before this election though, but it's something that can be considered for the next one, because they cannot do anything about the Act now as it is. But can there be some sort of provision that states that anybody who supports violence, anybody who spawns violence, is going to have some kind of penalty to pay? This is going to be very important in trying to curb the issue of campaign violence, and also the issue of election violence, which is stated by Professor Jega. Now, the second thing he has mentioned is also the security agencies. Now, security agencies have been alleged to be complicit in issues of electoral fraud in the past. Some have said that they supported one opponent or the other. I remember the issue of Ekiti elections also as well, when that military personnel came out so many years ago to state that the government was funding what I would call an attempt to ensure that the votes in Ekiti then came to their own party. So it's very important that security agencies play a very big role. There has to be a lot of communication. There has to be a lot of interagency communication as well. So
thank you very much for that, Adedunmade. Moving on to another story that is quite worrying, and Orji, you already made mention of this, but let's go into it in more detail. So there's a seminary that has shut as herdsmen attacked a Catholic priest in Jalingo. We're talking about the Sacred Heart Minor Seminary in Jalingo, Taraba State Capital. They've been shut for a week following an attack by suspected Fulani herdsmen. Now, 2 of the priests were said to have been beaten up. Another was shot in the leg. We're talking about the rector, Reverend Father Emmanuel Astu, and Reverend Father Stephen Bakari, who were hurt. They say that, listen, we heard their conversation, which is how they were able to determine that they were Fulani. And from that conversation, we're able to understand that their grievance against us is that the security men in the seminary have been challenging their decision to graze right inside the seminary, around classes and a football field. Or this is quite worrying. This is a clear case of people who have decided to take whatever they see, regardless.
It's as simple as that. So, okay. Yes, I don't know where the seminary is, but I want to presume that maybe they have a fence and a gate, which is why the herdsmen could not get in easily. So they've tried to, and then the security men from the story here
said no.
This is private premises, and they forced their way in.
Yeah.
From the story, they beat up students with
Sticks.
To direct them to the residence of
the rector. Yes.
And in the shoot now is not with sticks, with
No.
guns. See, in a sane country, the moment you hear a gunshot, the law enforcement agents should know where that gunshot is coming from. And if they can confirm that that is not from law enforcement agents, they should within seconds
minutes
or minutes at the very least get to that place. But that's not the case in Nigeria. I don't. We know about it, so there's no point getting to it. The point I'm making here is that we are a long way away from the norm. We're a long way away from what is right. You cannot have. Nobody has a monopoly of violence. Nobody has a monopoly of having access to illegal. I'm not advocating it, but if you read the story further down, you would see what a Catholic bishop had no option but to say.
But just before we get to that, please do note that also in the same message that was sent out, they did say thanks to the prompt response of the Nigerian police, Nigerian army, the Nigerian security and civil defense corps, and the local vigilance group, that normalcy was able to be restored.
By which
time
some people had been injured.
But they
cars
did.
Had been destroyed.
That's fine, but I'm saying that from the people that were reporting the attack themselves, the priests themselves said it was due to their prompt response. So let's not ignore that.
And none of the students were missing.
Okay,
carry on.
If that's let's cap ourselves.
No, we can't continue. I'm just pointing out because they said that.
Yeah, they said,
so
okay.
we should, in the interest of fair reporting, we should mention that.
Okay. Now a bishop is now forced to rally, issue a rallying cry.
Yeah, the bishop of the Oka diocese.
Yeah. It should not have come to this. Yesterday, when this story broke, I had read that the priest who led the protests sometime last week.
It was a peaceful march. As a bishop, the bishop of the Lagos Archdiocese.
They were the person attacked, but it turns out that at least from this story, I don't think that's
what happened. That's not true.
So this is just a separate incident entirely.
Yeah.
It is one incident too many. It's getting out of hand. And the moment you allow people who are supposed to be, who are priests and who are supposed to be quiet, start issuing rallying cries for their people, I know how Catholics behave.
It comes from a place of feeling, where you feel threatened and you feel like people should act more.
They just simply said we have to safeguard our lives and we must defend ourselves. It's still a worrying rallying cry, but it is the reality right now for a lot of people in Nigeria. So let's put them in our prayers. But we do have to move on for time reasons. Thank you very much, Orji, for that. Adedunmade, we're going to jump to the story in from the Punch newspaper. Hackers are trying to leak JAMB questions, but the registrar of the board, Professor Oloyede, says they have not found any breakthrough. No, they haven't broken through. Adedunmade, what's your take on this, considering that this sort of story it's almost inseparable from JAMB. We know that every year or whenever the exam is run, we have this same recurrence, and there are allegedly papers leaked. Some students do get the questions. What's your take on this?
Well, it's quite amazing to see that these people that leak these questions are also improving in skill.
Yeah.
Because I don't think back in the day they used to hack it. I think they just used to bribe it out of.
Back in the day, it was not online.
Yeah, true. So it shows that these people are also being creative as time goes on. But what I found very interesting was a statement made by Professor Ishak, where he said that we keep promising them that if they can get one of our questions and it's genuine, we will pay them a lot of money. Now, I was going to ask, is that like a challenge?
Because
they just might take you on.
They say we're ahead of the game.
Well,
truth
they are
is
saying
keep
they're ahead of the
trying to
game,
play
which
catch
is
up.
actually very good, and it's actually great to see what JAMB is doing with regard to accountability and transparency as well. But back to the Akin story, I think they should actually fund a kind of project for people to hack their systems. Now, this is what I believe is called ethical hacking, right? So they should do that, and they should see.
I'm sure they
More
did it
loopholes.
in software. There's a stage called software testing. Maybe when
Yeah, okay, well, great.
Interesting. Let's move on very quickly. We've got a message in from WhatsApp. Tijani from Barigas says, "Happy Democracy Day to you all, but I believe that by now everyone knows the bane of our problem in Nigeria is corruption, and Buhari is tackling this problem." While Henry Manuel says, "The government won't increase power tariffs because of the next election. I also believe that the government haven't removed fuel subsidy because of the next election, and the government is planning to increase minimum wage because of next year's election. So an important public policy decisions are heavily influenced by cheap political considerations. Unfortunate." And in a final news story from the Vanguard newspaper, Nigeria is expanding the use of its opaque $670 million slush fund. A report from Transparency International has come out pointing the accusing finger, j'accuse, at security votes, calling it a relic of military rule and really just ostensibly a way for corrupt officials to easily use and hide entirely hidden slush funds. I mean, over to you, Orji.
I won't say a lot. There's no time. We already know about these funds. I think maybe they're just finding out about it. We've known it for a long time.
Maybe they're trying to galvanize us ahead of the elections. Maybe.
Let me mention something to you. It says that federal funding on security votes increased by 43%. 43% from 2017 to 2018 budget. 43%.
Well, our insecurity has increased quite dramatically, let's be honest. I'm not saying that the money was used judiciously in the first place, just for argument's sake.
At a point where you have, if security funds, that's the point, if the votes for security spending, the transparent ones, if it is transparent, increases by 43%, you can justify it. This slush fund, because that's what they actually are, which we call security votes, are untraceable, they are in cash. Like, you don't even know what it's spent for.
State governors, what are you doing?
No, I'm not just talking about the national level, even for state governments. They've not mentioned that at the end of the day, it was discovered that some of the monies were used for things like money spent on universities.
They'll just give you bulk amounts. They keep
You
this
see,
in case.
But something that I found very interesting was that the bulk of this money is also spent through the state governments. It's actually not even through the federal government.
Yes,
so every time
yes.
we have these insecurity issues and we keep looking at the federal
government, they also have.
It's almost like
That also shows the problem we have as a federation. So
Yes.
you have a governor who is the chief security officer, but who does not have control over the commissioner of police.
and you have a people who are unaware that they should be putting pressure on their chief security officer, who is their governor.
But the governor would, in turn, cannot put pressure on the commissioner of police. He can only beg, because the authority will ordinarily come from the IGP.
Yes, you see, but if we know, we don't have to beg, we can vote. There you go, get your PVC.
What we need as a country is
States police.
proper restructuring. The day we agree to do it, Nigeria will be better. But
I
I'm not sure
agree,
someone will do anything
but I
soon.
also think that you need proper citizens, people who actively participate, to be able to carry out such restructuring. Otherwise, it's a theoretical debate. Nobody will do anything they're supposed to, because it's my problem.
We'll be fine. Last.
We must. Thank you so much, Orji, for coming in. Always appreciate the conversation with you every morning. Find him up on Twitter at Orji Uka, and find Adedunmade simply as that on Twitter at Adedunmade. We truly appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic holiday. Are you still going to be working? Still briefs?
Did you go to the office?
Sorry.
Ah,
Tough
sorry,
times.
man.
I learned people. That's
Coming
how
up
it
next,
goes.
Lagos. In 14 minutes, we'll be delving into the world of entertainment inside of the grapevine.
Good morning.
The headlines. The story.